Saucer-like UFOs are akin to the PT Cruiser of American automotive.
Retrofuturism.
That's it. I think you've nailed it.
I hope the PT Cruiser doesn't come back, though. I'll just say that.
100%.
You're welcome, Matt Tyler, voice of reason.
It's almost time to celebrate manufacturing's finest contributors at the annual Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs Awards Gala. This fun and exciting evening supports the next generation of manufacturers by raising funds for scholarships and educational programs. Help build tomorrow's skilled workforce by attending or participating in the online silent auction. Bid on artwork and other unique items throughout the evening from anywhere. Get all the details at gala.nutsandboltsfoundation.org.
All right. Hello, Dan Davis with the Fabricator Podcast. I'm joined today by Josh Welton.
Hello.
Hello. We'll be talking with Matt Tyler, of Matt Tyler Design. Believe me, it's more complicated than it looks. He's going to talk about the way he's come up as a fabricator and his business, where he's doing a lot of, recently at least, a lot of doors for clients. And I was asking Josh, have you ever done anything in terms of like a framing for like a home or something like that?
Not for a home, no. I've done some framing. I've done some like swinging doors on toolboxes that, kind of just put together for utility and not for, not really to look great or anything like that. But they're tricky. And I think that he, even talking through the process, he'll talk about some of the things that, like, if you don't have the angles right, people look at a door and they think it's simple. It's this thing, you open the knob, you turn the knob, it's on hinges, you open it, you walk through. But there's a lot that goes into the fit and finish and how it opens and how it feels. And when you're trying to do the level of work that he's doing, that stuff is critical. And how he's like, so no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Long answer.
But it's kind of fun, like, hearing him. I mean, you're always kind of a big proponent of people finding their own style.
And he did.
Yeah, and
when he was talking about the French doors and the bottom latches, and he's like, at first I didn't know I needed them, and then I just came up with a design on my own. That's so much more fulfilling, and then you might come up with something that changes the industry.
Yeah, and his whole approach is kind of seamless.
Yeah,
the
finishing, the blending,
and
like
his blending, if anything, it seems like his skills there are really kind of sharp.
Yeah, if you once you listen to this, if you go to his social media, which we shout out in the podcast, his work's phenomenal. He does courses on things like blending and other techniques. And his aesthetic is so cool. But what he does, like when he talked about doing the rougher ones for his previous job and then working up to doing the finer ones, it's really easy to, when you're doing something for yourself, being like, it's good enough. Right. So you got to really put that extra, like, he's building stuff for his home. Yeah. And he said he focused on making it better and taking the time with it. For me, that's always been a hard thing, is taking that time to do it right for me. Right. Usually my stuff is just like cobbled together.
Yeah.
So that kind of mindset is what you need to do what he wants to do.
Right. And I think that's how customers end up coming to you, because word gets out and they can expect quality.
You do quality work and you're going to get rewarded.
Right.
Like, it's because not enough people do work at that level.
Yeah. So I think you'll enjoy this episode. Some random shots of alien discussion, which Matt seemed very perplexed by, but nonetheless, we kept moving forward, and it ends with a mention of a rattlesnake and a cougar. So hang in there till the end. Think you'll enjoy it. See ya.
FMA's Coil Processing Workshop heads to Toledo. During this 2-day workshop, you'll connect with industry colleagues and gain insight into your toughest processing challenges. The small group setting includes facility tours for you to see equipment in action and discover new solutions for cutting, slitting, leveling, safety, and more. For more information and to register online, please visit fmamfg.org. And now, back to the episode.
This is his friend, our friend, A friend.
Our new friend.
Our new friend.
Our new friend.
Officially friend of
Yes.
the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Matt Tyler.
Thank you for having
And
me.
Is that a
Company?
question?
Matt Tyler Designs.
I'm always saying it in a question because I'm not
Matt
trusting myself
Tyler?
to know. I'm not, so yes, it is a
Very,
question.
very hard to pronounce.
So maybe it pronounces it some other way. I'm not quite sure.
Hey, you're good. You're right.
Tyler.
you had it. You were spot
All
on.
Tiller.
right. See, Josh is throwing me off my game.
I'm
which is
sorry. I'm sorry.
Very
Shut
easy
up.
to do. Furniture, art. Describe your business to us and how you got involved with it.
Yeah, so it's custom fabrication, and I'd say it's kind of a mix of furniture and architectural metalwork. I'm about 1 year in of being full time on my own.
Right
And
on.
it took me a few years of like the side hustle game to get to that point. But I was probably, I think it was like 14 years in to working in the industry
Oh wow.
for in other companies to be able to actually make that jump and
Right
have
on.
like just enough tools to be able to do it. And, so
What were some of the jobs you held beforehand that got you to this point?
yeah, so the first one was 7 years, and that was sheet metal shop. And so I got to do a little bit of everything
Right.
from being there. So one of my main jobs was a CNC operator. And so I was doing that. I got to drive with trailers, operate the iron worker and shears and kind of a little bit of everything.
Right
got
on.
a little bit of taste on, like leading other guys. I was kind of a mess back then. I mean, not kind of a mess. I was a disaster back then, and my boss should have fired me many times and didn't, very graciously. And luckily, I did end up turning my life around.
Gotcha.
And he could see that in me.
Yeah,
That, let's just keep him around. There's something in him
That's a good boss.
that wants to change.
That's a leader.
But there were many Mondays called in sick, a couple weeks that were called in sick. So I was there 7 years. From there, the next one was custom furniture. And that was like the first time I ever discovered what custom furniture even was, kind of almost by accident, and saw a buddy's Instagram page, was completely inspired by it for the first time. Because before I didn't enjoy
Who's your buddy?
my buddy,
Give him a shout out.
Jacob Trish,
Right on.
Revival Supply Co. was the
Cool.
name of the company.
Right on.
And so it was like this mix of raw steel and reclaimed wood. And so that's what we were doing. So I worked there for 2.5 years. They moved to Colorado, got another job at Stash Design, which was pretty much the same thing. It was a lot of furniture, and I was there for like 3.5 years. Then soon after we moved out to the country, got a few acres, and then I finally had my own shop.
Wow.
So that was huge for me.
Congratulations.
Where do
Thank
you
you,
work
thank
out of? Or what area?
I'm in Bridgeport.
Okay.
Or if you go to Bridgeport, then you're going to drive another 25 minutes out into the middle of nowhere. And that's really
Connecticut?
weird. Do what?
Is it Connecticut? Bridgeport?
Texas.
Texas.
Sorry,
Okay.
Bridgeport,
No,
Texas.
you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So,
I'm
yeah,
in
Yeah, this is
Texas.
day 4 of FabTech, so everyone's like, brain is fried.
Texas is big.
Bridgeport.
I think Texas
It
is
is.
only like a few miles from Connecticut.
Yeah,
right.
It is. It's right across
Yeah.
the right across
According to
the
the maps I consult.
It's right across the river.
So did you find would you have found your way if that early boss probably didn't stick with you? Do you think back to those days?
Man,
about
I
that?
don't know. I mean, what the path that I was going towards was like prison or a grave. I mean,
yeah.
that was like really where I was going, like heavy drug use, alcohol. And I pretty much knew that. Like I knew, like I was getting arrested and it was looking real bad for me.
Yeah.
And it was really like a spiritual change that took place, that I just kind of gave up. And like, I knew I could, it was just so obvious that
Yeah.
I was either going to go to prison or I was going to die. And so something had to change. And so that was like when I gave my life to Christ and things started turning around and like started going to church again and all the stuff that I like wanted no part of.
Right.
And like grew up that way, but rejected it and, definitely rebelled and didn't want anything to do with all that stuff. But that was really where the change really started
Right.
for me.
Right on.
And then it was a very long road of kind of living these two lives of the party scene and then like my new life. And so that was like that stage that I was in for those 7 years. And so it was very chaotic.
Yin and yang.
Yes.
And then you finally kind of committed to the straight and
yeah,
narrow?
it just kind of, I think it was like 2016 was it was like something just like broke, something changed.
Yeah.
And it was like all those years of like the patterns of addiction and all that stuff of wiring the brain, like finally kind of got rewired.
Right.
And that was like when things really was going in a good direction when I started that first furniture job.
Yeah.
That's a process, because those things become hardwired, and then
Yeah.
that 7 years is kind of like you're sort of trying to unwire that, because it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a cold turkey kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it felt like it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was just, yeah.
It's incredible you came through that. That's
Yeah.
that's admirable. That's awesome.
Thank
Was
you,
the change
thank
of
you.
scenery helpful? I mean, you start the new gig, or did that happen before you maybe started the new job?
It was before. It was
Okay,
before.
all
So
right.
that kind of took place, and then that's really when I found them. I'd come out of a really bad back injury,
Yeah.
and so I didn't even think I could do that job, because I still could like barely lift anything, and so it was kind of a risk for me to take that job, because you're like lifting steel every single day.
right.
One little wrong move and
Yeah, and you're back to not being able to walk at all.
Yeah, that's
and,
sketchy.
And so I was just coming out of that, about a year of rehab.
on.
So
when
did you
that
enter
started.
that first kind of custom furniture job with skills that allowed you to kind of hit the ground running, or did you kind of have to learn maybe some new skills, or perhaps the way they do things there?
Yeah, well, the previous job was really what set me up and made me feel qualified, because there's no way I would have been qualified for that job
Right.
that I really wanted, because I did not enjoy the sheet metal job. It was purely like
Necessary.
I'm just like saying yes. I'm being faithful with this job, even though it makes no sense. I was going to be a musician and an artist, and that was like my road for my life. And so then I look back, I was like, wow, all those years I built all those skills,
Right.
year after year of doing that repetition and getting the reps in, that made me feel qualified for that job.
Right.
But I did go into that job with very little welding experience, and so I still was pretty intimidated and still had a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Especially when it came to furniture, which was new to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those skills that transcend. Like once you figure out what metal does and what it needs, like suddenly, things open up in your mind, and there's kind of a transition or not a transition, but it becomes easier than if you were just starting on that. Like once you get to finishing, and like I love your finishing work. I was watching videos
thank
this
you.
morning. Years of doing whatever with sheet metal. Like once you go into doing something like that, it's you understand how metal works. You understand, the way it moves, the way it wants to move with whatever. It's just like I feel like that once you get your foot in the door and you learn some of those basic things, if you really have it in you, and not everyone does. Like some people, they're not going to get it, but once you get in the door and start getting those simple things, like I feel like it's way easier to do the harder things. If that makes sense. I just rambled. Sorry, that was nonsense.
No, it was great, because it demanded really tight tolerances, demanded like real attention to detail, or else it was obvious. Like, if you're breaking parts, like it's just not going to fit.
There's no way to hide.
Or you're going to see a big gap, and you just got to throw in the scrap bin and start again.
Got to be precise.
Yeah, so it's like you're really your only option, and so that definitely laid the groundwork for being able to have that attention to detail.
Yeah.
But also just like knowing. Even if it's just like doing simple layout work with a combo square.
Yep.
There was I do that like every day.
Yeah.
So
Was that a good place to kind of hone your welding skills with that type of custom work, in the sense that you're going to end up cleaning up anything that really didn't look good, or
as far as the furniture went?
yeah.
Well, it wasn't like what I'm doing now is very different from what that furniture shop was.
Okay.
So it was a lot more rough, like kind of industrial.
Oh, I got you.
And so
Okay.
and so really you're just like knocking the weld off.
Gotcha.
You know, it's and just kind of move on.
Right.
And
right.
and so it really was me taking that on myself, of seeing what's possible and seeing what other guys are doing. That's where I decided that's what I was gonna do.
Right on.
And so it was just me like on my own, like trying to figure that out, and figure out how to do it. And I wish that I had somebody around me that knew how, that could teach me. But it was really just me using mostly Instagram and some YouTube, and just studying, doing a lot of studying, a lot of screenshots.
You think a lot more people, kind of share that story?
I do, and it's not the exact story, but there's
Right.
a lot of I underestimated the power of YouTube when I was younger. I was trained in a traditional manner, and I thought everyone should be trained similar to that, and I wasn't correct. I was wrong. I still think it's critical for, especially if you're doing structural welding, that you have some kind of, like you're doing certs and things like that, just to know what it's like. Even just a regular welder, just do one destructive test just to see what happens, because it's going to surprise you. But we see a lot of his story has elements of a lot of stories where metal is kind of or metalworking or working with your hands is almost I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like an antidote for everything else. Like, it's something you can pour your heart and soul into, and makes you want to be better. And then with having varying backgrounds, like, we don't do the 30 and out anymore. Nobody's looking for a factory job to retire when they're 65 and go into when they're 25. So you see a lot of people that are bouncing around from shop to shop, and that it might suck for the shop, but it's great for the worker, because they're learning learning how to work with different people, work in different systems, and then do literally different hands-on work. So then when they come out of it and they're like, I want to do this on my own, they've had that awesome training, basically. It's like going to school pretty much, you know? And so you do see that a lot, especially, and that 30 to 40-year-old range, you see a lot of people who have spent their 20s just kind of busting their ass at different job shops and doing these different things. And then with social media especially, like, you can market yourself. So you don't need to, you don't need to spend a bunch of money on marketing and putting ads out and things like that. Like, you just show, and with his videos, they're incredible. You show a process, you show how to do it, and people are attracted to that. And then more people become attracted to your brand and the kind of work you do. And then all of a sudden, people are in the position to buy those things. And,
has welding become that for you? Kind of that avenue for your creativity?
Yeah. So before, it kind of went from like drawing, painting. The things are a little bit more easier to get your hands on. Yeah. And then to like the welding fabrication stuff is an expensive,
version
kind
of that.
Yeah. And so it took a long time to get there. But yeah, it's really the furniture and the creative side where I get to take those hands-on skills, combine it with the creative, and create something beautiful. And like that's what like brings the passion out of me.
100%.
And like what makes me, come most alive, like in that sort of avenue.
So you're still kind of doing hand drawing of your projects before they begin?
I was, and about a few months ago, once I really started getting projects coming in, it was I could tell that it was not sustainable to keep doing the hand drawings, and so I switched over to CAD. And like the last I'd say the last month, especially the last month, I made the transition over to CAD, and it's just crazy how much it just like pushed my design forward, pushed how professional stuff looks.
Did you have experience with CAD before that?
No.
So you're just teaching yourself?
I had failed attempts. Is what I had.
Gotcha.
I just kind of tried
at other people's
at
other
his own
employers.
stuff.
Oh wow. Okay.
No, just different software.
Okay.
I've tried to learn it, and it was one of those things where I'm like, I need to learn this, but it just wasn't fun to do it, and it was just it's purely discipline. Like, we just have to sit down and make myself do this, like you're learning an instrument, so that you can write the song.
Right.
And so that was that process that I
That's a great way to
I kind of procrastinated, and I wasn't willing to put in that time, and just kind of got frustrated with how overwhelming it felt. And then just kind of like, whatever. I'll just keep drawing.
Yeah.
Like,
what are you
we'll just
using?
make the drawings look better.
What CAD program are you using?
So I started on Shaper 3D, which was like super easy for me to get going.
Right.
And then after about a month of that, I realized that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
At least not. Yeah. On a certain scale, it had some limitations that Fusion 360 like really met.
Yeah.
And so I'm transitioning over to Fusion.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of using both right now.
Gotcha. So what got you ready to go out on your own? You had mentioned kind of tools are one thing, but 2 years, I think you probably mentioned before you're ready, kind of start your own gig.
Yeah, it was a few years of, staying late in the shop. And I mean, the hardest thing was just learning how to price jobs.
100%.
Which is still hard.
It is.
I hear many other people say that it's kind of always hard. You do get better at it, and I've definitely gotten way better. But I really screwed up at the beginning, And like the first job I ever took was for these giant planter boxes. You know, I didn't charge profit. I didn't know you're supposed to do that.
Yep.
I just messed up kind of everything about the project. Ended up having to hand it off to somebody else, and it was a little while till I took on another one. But see, it was a few years of just understanding what that process looks like, of somebody wanting to hire you to do a job, and how, you know, what are the questions I ask, you know,
Right.
the whole process of the business side that you have to learn. That, you know, you can be really good at the building side, but there's a whole nother, you know,
business side
there's
and
an
the
aspect,
yeah.
that you just have to learn, otherwise, or your business is just gonna shut down really, really quick.
Yep. It's even with sculpture, that's the difficult part. I just keep raising prices until people don't pay them.
No,
So
yeah. So I know, like in the commercial area, I mean, trying to capture that knowledge. That person leaves a company and they can be high and dry with, you know, looking for like the right kind of estimating and quoting help.
Well, that's anybody that's good at what they do now, they don't stay at shops long because you don't get paid.
Right.
It's impossible to pay the help what they deserve if they're really good. So they go out and do their own thing.
Yeah. They try to lean into automation or like software to try to fill that gap, and that's not always as easy as it's.
No, there's a
sold to
lot
be.
of machines sitting unused in factories across the U.S. because they just didn't hire the people to. They thought they could just set it up and use it, and now it's in a box. In storage.
Yeah.
So
go
ahead.
I'm sorry. Who are you with your tools in your shop?
I mean, I still feel pretty bare bones.
Yeah.
I've got, you know, I do have a fixture table. Got a sick deal on a Build Pro table. It was like a $3,500 table I got for $500.
There you go.
Off of one of those kind of like a Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Got a crazy good deal on that. I got
is
a
good.
multi-process. I have an Everlast
Okay.
welder, and I ended up like financing it. I was determined to learn TIG, and at the time I was like reading some Dave Ramsey stuff, and so, you know, doing anything on credit was just like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure if it was the right decision, but I did it, and I'm very glad I did.
Right decision.
And so we got, you know, the toolbox and clamps and like an old janky drill press that like could catch on fire, but it hasn't.
You just keep like a big glass of water right there.
Yeah,
just in
I
case.
mean, it'll have like a spark come out the side of it, but I mean, it's still the switch doesn't work,
There
so
you
you
go.
have to plug it in
Plug
to turn
it
it
in
on.
and-
Yeah.
But
Note to all drill press manufacturers.
Yeah,
Do you have
I
like
just-
a mini fire extinguisher on a holster or something on your belt?
I like that. I do have a few in the shop, so they are strategically placed. And I did recently get the bandsaw. Was like the
Oh, okay.
the recent big upgrade I had, because
Yeah.
I was using some chop saws, and it just wasn't a fun time.
Right.
And that and an angle grinder was how I was doing my cuts.
Oh,
so I got
wow.
a horizontal grizzly bandsaw
Yeah.
with a roller table set up.
Yeah.
And I did the Craig jig. And it's kind of like meant for woodworking.
Yeah.
But you can set your stop, and if you're doing multiple cuts,
Oh, wow,
you can just
okay.
move it over, flip it
Is
over.
that taking a lot of frustration out of the kind of process?
And it's so much time that you're not
Yeah.
throwing the tape out,
Right.
measuring, marking. It'll be a huge time saver.
Yeah.
I still need to set that up, but I do have it in the box.
Right on.
That's awesome. What type of materials you're typically working with?
Mostly mild steel.
Okay.
So it was almost for the length of when I started furniture. It was mostly square tubing.
Yeah.
2-inch square tubing, 14 gauge is definitely the most common. And as I've recently just pushing my skills forward, I've been trying to get away from that and kind of think more outside the box, which has me using more sheet goods and laser cutting. So
Okay.
a lot of my stuff, the majority of my stuff now, when I design something, I'm kind of going through that process of laser cut, and maybe it's tab and slot, maybe it's getting broken, but yeah.
Wow.
Right on.
So I'm kind of shifting a little bit.
How do you finish? How do you protect the surface of the mild steel in furniture?
Usually, I'd say the go-to is powder coat. If you want to go,
Just do a clear powder coat, or
yeah. If you want to go like real affordable, it's a Rust-Oleum can. My
Right.
first furniture job, that's all we used.
Yeah.
And you just try not to make it drip. It did drip sometimes.
yep.
And but clear powder coat is very common. I've been looking way more into the patinas, like waxes
Yep.
and oils, and then the blackening process. It's something I really haven't done much of, but it's something that I kind of need in my arsenal just to be more well-rounded.
It's something I've been trying to experiment with too, just to get different. Like, I love the aesthetic of raw metal.
Yeah.
And like, how can you bring that out in different ways, and still protect what you're doing?
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Yeah.
Your videos, the aesthetic of the sound, like how did you come, like, because it's awesome.
Oh, thank you
like
so much.
and everything's different, but it all blends, like it fits with each other. How did you come up with that kind of style?
I would say years of just doing it. I mean, that's kind of like the I don't know, the cliche of just doing it a bunch. So I just did it a lot for years just for fun. I really always did it for fun, and I really do enjoy it. And I would just do it on my phone, and I would kind of be working when I was working for other people. Maybe I should have not done this as much, but I would kind of set up my phone and take videos, and I didn't get in trouble for it, but I probably did a little bit more than I should have. And then once I went off on my own, I could really run with it, and I got a tripod. That was when things really went to the next level, was just getting a little tripod,
Right.
so I could set up my shots and visualize it. So I started out editing on my phone and using InShot, and so I would just use the music that was in the program. Then I started using my computer, and so I'd edit in Premiere Pro, and I had a academic sound subscription, and so I was getting much better music.
Gotcha.
And so I think it's just the music I like. It's that kind of electronic.
It's got a great vibe.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of metal and other stuff, but some things, I don't know. I think I could decrease the amount of people that want to watch the videos if there's a little too much screaming.
I may have done that before.
Which you might enjoy
many times.
But
yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's even
everyone.
I wouldn't say it's intentional. It's just kind of when I hear a song, it's just my ear likes it, and it just kind of flows. But
What instruments do you play?
Guitar and bass.
Right on.
Bass kind of by accident, because nobody else wanted to play
exactly.
it. And so that's when I started bass. Yeah. But I did fall in love with it.
Right on. I played bass a little bit when I was younger. I was never any good at it. Love guitar. I can't really, my wrists don't work anymore, but that's awesome. That's cool. And you were talking about Tom DeLonge, and now he's you're a huge, are you still a huge Blink 182 fan, or was that?
I haven't listened to him as much lately. I'd say my tastes have changed. Every now and then I will kind of come back and just kind of see what they're up to, and it partially seems like they never age.
Yeah,
especially
right?
Travis.
Yeah.
Travis still looks exactly like he did way back when.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I just when Tom DeLonge came out and started talking about aliens, everyone was like, "You are insane!" And then it turns out he was actually talking to legitimate people and doing it the right way, and there's aliens, guys. I don't know. I was a little skeptical at first, and then he was on Joe Rogan and he was talking about these different government officials and this and that, and everyone in the audience was like, he is so full of shit. And then it comes out that oh no, he was really talking to these congressmen and politicians, and that's pretty fascinating. But
yeah, he really went excuse me. Yeah, he really went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Wait do you see who's opening up for them on the next tour? Yeah.
Aliens.
The
I wonder what aliens metal craft, if they have alien fabricators, or if they just and it's there, they think about it. I just did a visual on a not visual medium. But
at some point they had to build up to that technology, right?
Yeah. So maybe they have antique metalworking shops in space, wherever they live, whatever planet they're on.
I think the saucer may be their approach to retro.
Retro?
Yeah,
that could
the
be.
saucer maybe
that's the reason they still look like that now, is because the old ones were
saucer UFOs are akin to the PT Cruiser of American automotive.
The future retroistic future retrofuturism. Yeah.
That's it. I think you've nailed it.
I hope the PT Cruiser doesn't come back though. I'll just say that.
100%. I still
Welcome,
can't believe
Matt
how well
Tyler, voice of reason.
So funny.
Thank you.
Funny story about that is the UAW had no problem with them making that in Mexico, because they're nobody's gonna buy that. And then it turned out to blow up, and the UAW had egg on their face for that one. Even the material, they've got whole different minerals up in space and elements, and space
I don't
welding.
think we can wrap our head around it, to be honest.
I'm trying, but my head's not quite long enough.
We're getting closer over here.
Yeah,
the number of robots that are over here.
Well, we were talking the other day. We were talking to Greg from Redbeard's Garage, and he's you go around the show, and it's and it's like, kind of unattainable, but it's cool to dream about the future. And I'm like, yeah, but like this stuff that now we have 3D printers on our desk, that was unattainable 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting CNC plasma cutters, that wasn't attainable for your shop 10 years ago. And now small businesses are getting cobots because they can increase their manufacturing time and not have to hire a bunch of people to do it. They can operate it themselves and set it up, and it's the same thing every time.
It's interesting to see just the amount of particularly those collaborative robots.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Matt, are you looking for anything at FabTech particularly?
If you know anybody with a lot of cash they're looking to get rid of, I will.
Investment. You're
there's
looking
many
for
things I
investment.
could.
Yeah, I was about to say, what's the wish list?
I would find you some sponsorships.
The wish list. Let's see. Oh, so I'd say the biggest one would be laser or water jet.
Oh wow!
If I
So
had
all that's outsourced now.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean I could have 3.5 weeks lead time, and so like something that I could build today, and I could install it tomorrow. I'm waiting 3.5 weeks just to get it cut.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then that's if it does get powder coated, maybe that's another 2 weeks.
Right.
So
Especially since you're working with a lot of tubing too, I'm sure that's even harder to find. Maybe where you are.
yeah, it's like an hour to my metal supplier,
Gotcha.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
and then he's there also. So
They're in
Cormark,
Connecticut.
yeah, Cormark is where I get my steel from.
Gotcha.
To Maine.
And so
I just got a fast cut CNC plasma table.
Okay.
And I'll put you in connection with Russ and see if you guys can work something out. They're awesome to work with. They're great. And like the cool thing is if you run into something, they're on call 24/7, and your learning CAD is very helpful with that.
yeah,
So,
I've heard great things
yeah, they're awesome.
about that brand or that company.
Yep. The guy at top was a welder and started making plasma tables and really supports the industry a lot. So yeah, that they're good people to work with.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's so many brands that have come out with them.
Yep.
And you can kind of tell based on how
Quality
they're
and-
constructed. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
how
and
much
you can
thought
just
they put
tell
into it. And
from looking at theirs that it's
they're
well
solid.
done.
They're super
yeah.
good.
Would it help you with like your door work? Because obviously that's
Help with
something.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that one. So the mill would be definitely handy for that. Still, yes and no. I don't know. I'm still
Yeah.
kind of using like angle and flat bar.
Mm-hmm.
I've switched over to a whole new system on my doors, so I'm no longer like all the stuff in my videos. It's all tubing,
Oh wow. Okay.
and kind of in the process of doing that, I saw how a lot of other companies are building them and the weaknesses or setbacks in using tube steel.
Okay.
From how efficient it is to like thermal,
Expansion.
Yeah.
yeah, just all that stuff,
No kidding.
especially efficiency and how much time it takes to do it with tubing.
So what's the alternative?
Well, one alternative is there's several. One is that I'm doing or kind of settled on is making my own profiles, and so it's kind of a combination of angle and flat bar. And I spent a long time figuring that out, and many hours
Yeah, I bet.
studying and making samples and it not working, and had a lot of people help me along the way too, specifically on Instagram,
Yeah.
that were able to answer questions. And
No kidding.
awesome.
That's a substantial kind of door compared to, I would imagine, just a normal kind of door with tubing. Is that in essence a kind of heftier product?
yes, but it's the sight lines are like half of it, half the width.
Oh, okay.
So you can get way smaller sight lines,
right.
but do really big openings
Oh,
at the
cool.
same time.
Huh.
And it's so much faster.
Are you unique out there, kind of with this type of approach?
I wouldn't say unique. Maybe in my area for sure.
Right.
Some people are getting stuff shipped over from Switzerland, and so it's like a extruded hot rolled profile that's specific to windows and doors.
Okay.
And so there's a bunch of different ways people are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of, with me just being like a one-man show,
Yeah.
it's just, this is what kind of just, I think maybe
You're not
most
ordering
sense.
long lengths of materials from Sweden.
Yeah, and I
Not yet.
considered that, and I went back and forth, and it was going to have to come over on a shipping container, and there was a minimum that you had to order, and it just wasn't,
Wow.
didn't seem to make sense for me right now.
So how'd you get into like working or creating door frames? Like, what was the process of working up to that? Because it's not easy by any means.
Yeah, so when we bought the property out here, which is actually this video right here we're looking at, I built a house, or I built a door for the house that I've been building, and so I built I built a windows for our living room, and then I built in our master bathroom. There's a steel door with 2 side lights and a top light, and so that was kind of like my first. I built a few doors before,
Yeah.
but it was always like pretty rough and like quick and rough, and I wasn't happy with the action, and didn't really know what I was doing. And so this was like my first time where I gotta take the blending process that I had developed and just kind of studying what other people were doing and do it the way I wanted to do it at the like quality and
totally
level
get
that I
that.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Versus before, you kind of have to do it the way your boss wants.
Yep.
And so I really got the freedom on this one to do it my way. So it was like the complexity. I was looking at what lane can I go down where I can offer something that not everybody else can offer. And doors, it was very obvious that doors and windows was a very difficult thing to do and required like a high level of skill, detail, and precision for it. You get to have good seals, it close and click the way that it should. And so that was another draw, was I knew that I was going to push my skills forward and just kind of demand a lot of me.
Sure.
And so it was like the challenge.
Yeah. But you worked
that I was
on your
looking
house
for.
first before you worked on another. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got to mess up on my house first, which I did. I went
Did those
to,
work out for you?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah. The one video you had playing earlier, I installed it. I put the gasket in and the door didn't close. Because I didn't offset the door 1/8 of an inch to account for the gasket. And so that was like my first big lesson was to do that. So when I got to do a client's home, that got done.
Yeah.
And so it clicked the way
That's
it
awesome to
needed
learn on
click.
your own dime.
What's the
Yes.
What's the trickiest aspect that you've run into, that a problem that you solved with the doors?
The trickiest, I mean, it's definitely I would say the locking mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
and just having.
I watched this video earlier.
Oh, that's the on a set of French doors. It has the.
Oh wait, no, this is different. But yeah, similar.
But
Yeah,
this is creating the locking mechanism, essentially.
Do
right?
what?
This is just you creating the locking mechanism space.
Yeah. So for the French doors on the non-active door, I'm totally going blank on the flush bolt latch. I think is what it's called. So you have one at the top and bottom.
Yep.
And I didn't even like know that at first. I had never done French doors before, and I was doing it for a client's home, and so I just was studying, figuring out how to do this, and there was no information on how to do that. So I just kind of had to come up with what I thought, the way I thought it should be done. So that was my first time doing that.
Sometimes that's better because you come up with a unique way. You're not like, your mind's not poisoned by whatever design's been used for 300 years, and
Yeah.
you can kind of come up with your own solution.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like, how can I design this to where I don't see welds? That's kind
Yeah.
of a big part of the approach.
It's like the opposite of my ethos. But
But yeah, that's
I
kind of the
suck
way I
at
think.
blending is probably why.
So is your business kind of gravitated more toward doors and windows?
It did. I kind of totally rebranded the company and my
okay.
website and everything to do that. And then business just kind of like dropped. I just like didn't have any more work coming in the door. So I was like, uh-oh, I got to do something. So I opened it back up because I was having people come to me for custom stuff, but I didn't want to do custom.
Right.
And so I finally had to decide like, okay, well, let's like, don't let my ego get in the way. Like, we'll just do this. We got to make some money. But that was the goal, was to just do that. And now I don't know. I think I could get tired of the repetition
Right.
of just doing doors. And I do enjoy the creative aspect of the custom where it's not always the same.
The
Right.
sculpture that you did, I'm not sure what you would call the style or the type, but I don't know why.
Yeah, all the angles.
It just drew me in. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
The
Yeah.
the block. with
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
Oh, there
yep.
it goes.
Yeah, exactly. This right here.
Yeah, I was basically just taking scrap material, kind of looking at what scrap material is laying around that I can use, and so that was kind of my design restraint was what I had to
Yeah,
work
yeah.
with.
Oh, those are fun projects
Yeah,
to do.
and it's important to like kind of work that skill
Yeah.
because inevitably you're gonna have to do that.
Looks like an awesome
In a
end
shop.
table.
Show the finished one.
Yeah, when I first did that, I didn't even have my blending process down.
Oh wow.
I was still kind
No,
of
it's not
figuring it
that-
out at that point.
Yeah. So you've gotten to the point
Super
now where you
cool.
put a course out there.
Yeah.
So is that kind of like something else, like a natural extension of what you were doing, or is it kind of just a new endeavor?
That was a new endeavor.
Yeah.
I was looking at one, there was kind of two layers to it. One, I really enjoyed helping people.
Yeah.
And so through Instagram, I've had so many people reach out asking me questions.
Right.
And so I've had the opportunity to help people, and it was just rewarding for me getting to do that, and it just felt good. And then I've also been looking at ways of how can I get out of the shop more and not be breathing as much welding fumes, metal dust from grinding, and just like the toll it takes on your body.
Right.
And so I kind of saw like, okay, this, as far as longevity goes, I can't do this forever. And so let's look at ways that we can kind of minimize and pivot and get myself do it, whether that's filming or editing in front of the computer. And so that was kind of another aspect of doing the blending course.
Oh, wow.
And teaching in general.
Yeah. I love teaching. It's fun seeing people just like grow into, when they come in and they're willing to learn, and seeing the spark go off, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I got this. And then you look at their work a month later and you're like, they got it. That's super cool.
Yeah, and there's, as far as fabrication goes, there's really not any, specifically online, there's really no education out there.
Right.
Even YouTube, like there's some great YouTube channels, but as far as like how to fabricate, there's not a ton out there. And so
Right.
I also just kind of saw a niche for me that I could kind of come in there and kind of like and fill that space, which is today it's like super uncommon
Right.
that a market isn't kind of already saturated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I started a YouTube channel, and this was like right before I started building our house.
Matt makes stuff.
Yeah, so before Matt Tyler Designs, it was called Matt Makes Stuff, and I've partly felt like it wasn't maybe super professional. I was like working with these more professional home building companies, and then people also kept spelling it wrong, and I mean over and over again they'd do like one S or, and so I just kept having to correct it, and I just got kind of tired of. I could just see it being a problem. When somebody
Yeah.
sends me an email and it doesn't get to me
Right.
because they
Yeah.
only put one S. So that was another reason why I decided to change it. But I
I've always-
got.
I always
Okay.
feared that like probably some awesome person has wanted something from me, and I like lost so many emails that it's like, man, maybe I was making something for, I don't know, NASA or something, but I missed the email.
Yeah, it's like $1 million waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But you just didn't
It's
get
a
the email.
giant project. We
Yeah.
need you, Josh.
The aliens have been trying to email you this entire time.
Right. Darla, check my spam folder.
Did you have the video editing chops before that, or is that something you learned along the way too?
Yeah, I've done it for a long time off and on. It was something I didn't do it consistent enough to get really good at it. So I still feel like I'm a beginner in it as far as like videography goes.
Did you do any of that when you were into music?
No, I mean it kind of started with skateboarding.
Gotcha.
Way back.
Yeah,
When you had it up on your shoulder and it was like VHS tapes.
Yep.
We would do that for fun and just like make videos.
awesome.
And I've helped some friends out with their YouTube channels
Yeah.
and kind of stumbled my way through the editing. So that it's something that I've intentionally been trying to get better, especially on the computer and doing it on Premiere Pro, and bringing that with also some After Effects, which I've got to learn too, just to bring in more visual appeal, especially when it comes to the YouTube side.
Yeah.
Which I when I was building the house, I realized, okay, maybe now's not a good time to do YouTube and build a house. So I kind of just put that on the back burner, and so I only have 2 videos up, but I need to get back to it. And I've been filming, so I've been at least getting kind of a library together, so that once I start editing, I can have some stuff to put out consistently.
Shelter's pretty important, so that's a good choice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we're getting towards the end of that process, so
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself going in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, so one goal is to keep pushing my skills and build, like I want to build ultra high-end furniture that is just the most beautiful stuff that
There's a market
that
for
there
it.
is, which my skill level just hasn't been there. And so me learning, getting better, which was part of the blending, me getting better at blending, me learning how to TIG weld. Machining is one of the things I've got to do next. Is just like acquiring all these skills so that I can build that furniture or art or sculpture that's kind of like in my mind. So that's one of these goals that I'm pushing towards and pursuing. I know I can get there. I just gotta keep getting better, and have a larger kind of wallet for the materials, because some of the stuff is gonna be like brass, and it's just gonna cost so much money to build. That's another reason why it's just kind of it's something that's, like I said, with painting, you can easily go out and just start painting, but some of this other stuff, it requires a
little dough,
a little more investment on the front end. So doing the furniture and just continuing building out like my brand. So I did clothing for a long time, screen printing, and so I've like designed my own T-shirts, and so that's another aspect.
Right on.
The teaching, continue to do more courses. The YouTube channel of just showing that process. So kind of taking what I'm doing on Instagram and just it being a more long form of really breaking it down, the process. And so those are some of the big ones. And then a podcast as well.
There you go.
We won't be competition, don't worry. But mine is more like design, craftsmanship, fabrication, and just kind of broadly talking about that.
I like it.
One element which we were talking about earlier was the idea of traveling and talking to really talented people around America. So that's something that I would love to do. There's so many incredible companies out there doing work that I could not do, and I'm inspired by that. I would love to share their story and like how did they get there. I think there's a lot of people that deserve to get that kind of showcase and be put out there.
One of the things I've been trying to do, this show in particular, that I haven't always done a great job of, is going to the kind of the small businesses, not the big corporations, and trying to get them coverage and trying to get the word out on what they're doing, because it's awesome. But they just don't have the money to spend on advertising like the big boys do. So trying to get their voices heard and what they're doing seems as important now as it's ever been. So yeah, totally. There's so many unique people who are just doing their thing, and some of them are happy just being alone, but it's really cool to see you run into some of them and they do something that seems to be basic and you're like, you just did that in a totally different way. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about like a show like this, or just the Instagram community as a whole. We used to joke like everyone that got on there in the welding community used to be welders, and now they're all doing something different. Like welding's opened up the door for them for 100 different possibilities. But it's almost like a gateway drug sort of, or fabrication in general,
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of aspects to the business.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the things where we've discussed about the challenge of earning money, making a living, but yet it also provides plenty of opportunity to kind of take a path and see where it goes.
Absolutely.
And actually maybe kind of find that money you didn't find originally.
I'm looking for it. Still looking for it.
That's it. When we get that Bigfoot on tape, man, it's gonna be all. It's gonna be all good.
Exclusive. We'll do an exclusive FMA podcast. The thing is gonna blow up. Everyone in the world's gonna be listening.
I don't know how the world will react to a carcass of a cryptoid in our podcast studio.
Hey, listen, if you guys won't do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, maybe we'll have it in a big dog cage. Anyway,
I think it's what the people want.
That's what I do. I agree. It is.
Yeah, I think people want Bigfoot more than aliens. I think aliens are kind of accepted now.
Aliens are for sure. Yeah, they're for sure accepted.
So it's kind of like we got to move on to the next cryptoid. Yeah. Well, all right. On that note, Matt, if you have any information on cryptoids, please let us know. If people want to find out more about you, where can they find that?
Yeah, so Matt Tyler Designs is the Instagram. My website, same thing, matttylerdesigns.com. So the blending course is on MTD-network, and you'll see the eventual podcast will also be on there. So that'll be probably the same name, Matt Tyler Design, or MTD Podcast. A little bit, few less words, but yeah.
And then YouTube is Matt Make Stuff.
It's Matt Make Stuff. I need to get it switched over to Matt Tyler Designs.
Oh, gotcha.
Just
so
to keep it all.
Do that.
Yeah, just to keep it all the same.
Right on.
So it doesn't get confusing.
Yeah, that's very important when it comes to branding.
Yeah.
Yes.
I use different names on everything, and it doesn't work. It's not great.
There's
I
always
know a
more to
consultant
learn.
who can help you.
Yeah, I know, right? I just listen to Matt.
Well, yeah, he's more affordable than probably the one I was going to suggest.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome.
If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, criticisms, hate mail, if you want to send us a check, please do so. You can
Yes.
send that at podcast. Actually, you can't send a check via email. Anyway,
Venmo.
we should have our Venmo. That's what we should do.
Yeah. We should have
Yeah.
a Venmo. up there.
Anyway, it's podcast at fmamfg.org.
That was the best one you've done yet.
Yeah. Rate, review, subscribe, wherever you get your podcast. And we thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
The Fabricator Podcast is a production of Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, located in Elgin, Illinois. The show is hosted by Dan Davis and the staff of FMA Communications. The podcast is produced by Gareth Slager and recorded and edited with the help of Brandon Geyer. Sales support provided by Andy Flando. Additional production support by Elizabeth Gavin, Dana Weicker, Mary Diamond, Mike Owens, and me, Sarah Spring. Thank you for listening.